everyone, today I'm going to be teaching you how to make a spiral candy pillow. I'm using weight 4 acrylic yarn for this project. I actually got the little skeins from Dollar Tree, which is Premier Just Yarn. I wanted to see if I can do this whole project with just one skein of each color, and these little skeins are 109 yards or 50 grams. I am going to be using a 5.0 millimeter crochet hook. A 5.25 would also be okay, but I wouldn't go any higher than that because this is a pillow that we're going to be putting stuffing into, so you don't want a lot of space in between the stitches. So we are simply going to be making 2 of these spiral circles and sewing them together. We don't even really have to sew. We don't have to use a needle. We will just crochet them together once we get to the end of the second one. Then once they are sewn together, we will stuff them and finish with the little wrapper parts. To start, we're going to make a slip knot and chain 4. And then slip stitch into the first chain. And we are going to be working inside that circle that we just made, not inside any of the stitches around the outside. So really open it up to see that middle hole. And we're going to go straight in with double crochets. It's a little harder to do a double crochet at first when we've just done a slip stitch. So go slow. And we are going to make 6 double crochets with this color. And make sure you're crocheting over the tail because then we're going to pull that tail closed. There's 6. And we're already going to be adding our second color, so pull this up a little bit so that you don't lose it, and grab your second color. Both colors are going to be on the project at the same time. If you've seen any of my other tutorials, you'll know that I try to avoid having more than one yarn attached to one project at the same time, and that's the reason I don't tend to carry yarn when I'm changing colors. So we're going to make a slip knot with the yellow color, or whatever your second color is, and hold on to this tail because we still want to crochet over it, but insert the hook where we just were, pull the second color through, and then just yarn over once and pull through. And now we're going to go straight into double crochets again. 6 double crochets just like the first color, and I'm crocheting over both tails now. And if you have to push this over a little, that's okay. That's 6, and then you can take the tail of your first color and pull it tight to make the middle hole disappear. And it's okay to cut off both those tails now so that they're not in our way. And now we're going to travel back to our first color. I'm always going to be doing a row of the first color and a row of the second color and then going back to the first color, even though it could be easier just to keep going with the second color and alternate. For me, it just is helpful to go back and forth to make sure you're on the right track. We are going to do double crochet increases into every yellow stitch. It's a little hard to see the first stitch because it's so much smaller since we were going from the slip stitch to a double crochet. So if you have to, you can count backwards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And do 1 double crochet in there and a second double crochet in there. And we are going to start using stitch markers in the first double crochet that we just did, the first of the increase. And now we're going to increase again in all the rest of them, so it's going to end up being 12 stitches. And now I will go ahead and do that with my second color. Pull this tighter. Start in the first double crochet of the pink color or your first color and do a double crochet increase. Do that 5 more times to equal 12 stitches, just like the first color. And then you will end right before the stitch marker. And we're going to put a stitch marker in the place where we started as well. I want to have 2 stitch markers going at once all the time so we don't get messed up. So now let's go back to the pink. I know we just put that stitch marker there. We just want to get in the habit of using it. We're going to take it out and start with a double crochet increase once again. We're going to start every new row with a double crochet increase. And then we're going to put our stitch marker back into the first double crochet that we did of the row. And then we are going to do 1 double crochet in the next stitch, not an increase, just a single double crochet. And then we are going to do an increase of double crochet again. So every other stitch this time is going to be an increase. And then the one in between is going to be just 1 double crochet. So here is my increase. And here's my 1 double crochet. In the next, all the rest of the rows, it's going to be easier to see that you're doing the double crochets in the right, or the increases in the right spot, because it's going to be over the increase from the previous row. That's not helpful this time because the previous row is all increases. So increase here, 1, increase here, 1, oops, last increase, and finishing off the row with 1 double crochet in that last stitch. And we can pull that up and start working on our second color and doing the same thing with our second color. That's why I like to go back and forth, so you're always gonna do the first round of the row with your first color, and then your second color, you're gonna be doing the same thing you just did every time. So we are gonna always start with the double crochet increase and put our stitch marker back in that first stitch. And skip 1 so that it's just 1 double crochet in the next stitch, and then doing an increase again. 1 double crochet in the next stitch and doing an increase again. If you've ever made like a bucket hat or anything that lays in a flat circle, then you've probably done this before. It's basically the same thing, except we're doing 2 colors at once and ending with 1. At the end of those rows, each color should have had 18 stitches. Now we are going to turn and go back to our first color. Let's remove our stitch marker. always start with a double crochet increase. Don't forget to put in your stitch marker like I did. And then we are going to be adding one extra non-increase every single row in between the increases. So last row we did one regular double crochet in between the increases, and now we're going to be doing 2. So we just did our increase, and then it's 1, 2, and then 3, 3. And as you can see what I was saying before, we are over the increase from the previous row. We're going into the first double crochet that you can see in this increase. And then we are going to do 1, 2, 3, 3. That's how I like to count increases. 1, 2, 3, 3. 1, oops, 2, 3, 3. 1, 2, 3, 3. Uh-oh. And then you end with your 1, 2. And now we're going to do the same thing with the yellow row. Take out the stitch marker and do the starter increase of double crochet. Put your stitch marker back in. And do 1, 2, 3, 3. That's an increase. 1, 2, 3. Redo that one. 3. 1, 2, 3, 3. And end it off with our 1, 2. Pull up the yarn and go back to our first color. Move the stitch marker. Start with our double crochet increase. Put the stitch marker back in. And this row, we are going to be doing 3 regular double crochets in between the increases. So we're going 1, 2, 3, 4, 4. I just did 1, 2, 3, 4, 4. And ending with 1, 2, 3. Pull this out and do the same thing with your second color. Finish it off with the 1, 2, 3. Right up until the stitch marker. And go back to your first color. take out the stitch marker and start with your double crochet increase. Put the stitch marker back in. And I'm sure you can guess the pattern here, that now we are going to 4 regular double crochets in between the increases. So we are counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 is the increase. 4 in between. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5. And just a reminder, we are over the double crochet from the previous row. Here is the V shape that a double crochet increase makes. And we are on the right side of the V shape with our current double crochet increase. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, all the way until we get to the end. And then we end with our 1, 2, 3, 4. And do the same thing with your secondary color. When you watch tutorials, do you prefer jump cuts to get to the end of the row once it's been explained, or do you prefer to watch as the row is being made with you? Let me know in the comments. I try to do a little combo of both. Forgot my stitch marker. I just finished that row and I'm going to go back to my first color to do increases in the 6th stitch. Now we're counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6. 6, 6 is the increase. You probably don't need to watch me do it anymore, but you're going to want to do it up until you get to 8, 8, meaning it's the row where you're doing 7 regular double crochets and then an increase in the 8th stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8 is an increase. Right now we are going into our 6, 6 row. So I've done my beginner increase and I'm doing 5 regular, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 in the same stitch for the increase. And we're going to do that for the rest of the pink row and the rest of the yellow row, and then do 7 and then do 8. Once we get to the end of the 8th row, or however many rows you want to do, if you get to the 8th row and you think it looks too small, then you can just keep going. You know by now that you just had to add 1 regular double crochet in between all of them, so then it would be a 9, 9 row and a 10, 10 row, etc. So you can make it as big as you want to. I made it 8 rows. So once you get to the end of the row where you want to finish, I will show you how to make it into a circle shape by ending off this sticking out part. I am now at the end of my 8-8 row, and I'm going to close off the circle and kind of flatten it out. So we are going to do 2 half double crochets, 2 single crochets, and 2 slip stitches. And then we can chain 1 and cut off the yarn. We're going to do the same thing on the other side, but if this is your second piece, as in you've already done the first piece like I have, then don't cut off the yarn. If it's your first piece, then you can do the same thing with the 2 half doubles, singles, and slip stitches, and then cut off the yarn like I did on this first piece. But on this one, we want to continue using the yarn to sew everything together. So I am going to do my half double crochets, single crochets, and slip stitches. And of course, if this is your first circle, then you're going to do everything all over again. If this is your second circle, then we're going into the sewing part. We're going to put these together and try to have not the same colors on the same sides. So I'm flipping this one over so that the pink ending side is on the same side as the yellow ending side on this one, if that makes sense. So over here is where the yellow is the border, and over here is where the pink is the border. I will use these 2 ends and sew them together. And once we get to the end of sewing, we're going to turn everything inside out. So we're kind of looking at the outside right now, or the inside. And now I'm going to flip this over so I can see what I'm doing. And line up the part where the pink ends here and the pink ends over here. And we are going to, I'm going to chain 1 to make it easier. Go into this back part and go through the front part and start slip stitching. So line up every stitch. Once you go through 1 stitch on this part, you go through the next stitch on the next part and slip stitch through both of them. 1 stitch in here, 1 stitch in here, pull it all the way through both, and slip stitch. There's no yarning over. To create a single crochet, we just want to slip stitch. We are going to do this all the way around, but you want to leave a hole big enough for your hand to throw the stuffing in. And now I'm close to the end, but I want to be able to put stuffing in there. So I'm going to finish here and turn it inside out. So let's get some stuffing inside the pillow. Once you're done with stuffing, we can finish sewing up. It's going to be a little hard now because we're going backwards, because we turned it inside out. And there we go. Now we need to do the wrapper part. So we're going to look at the part where the colors meet so that we kind of know we're going to be in the middle and that both our wrappers on both sides are going to be even. And we're going to count about 3 stitches away from the middle part. There's not really, like, since we sewed it together and turned it inside out, there's not really like stitches that stick out. You're just kind of sticking your hook in there. And you're going to get the color that you want for the wrapper. Put it on your hook. And pull it through both sides. And we're going to chain 3. And do a double crochet in the same spot that we just chained 3. And then we want to do a double crochet increase. Anywhere you can stick your hook. And then 1 more double crochet increase before we get to this part where the colors meet. Let me turn it this way for you. Through. And back through. And another one for the increase. And then do the same thing once we're going past the part where the colors meet. So we're doing 3 increases on that side too. The increases are going to help the wrapper part fan out. And chain 2 and turn your work. Now we are going to do an increase in every single stitch. One double crochet and 2 double crochet. Doing an increase in every single stitch in this second row is going to help it become more wavy or ruffly. And we're going to chain 2 and turn the work. And in this row, we are going to increase in every other stitch. So the first one I'm starting with no increase. Second one is increase. You don't have to be very precise with the wrapper part. There's no strict pattern for this. You're just trying to make the general shape. Increase here. Double crochet. Increase here. Turn our work. And this is going to be the last row for the wrapper. I did test out a bunch of different styles of the wrapper the first time I made this pillow, and I wanted the wrapper part to be a little longer or bigger, but it ended up just being too floppy and looked weird, so this was the best outcome that I had, was with these 4 rows, and this 4th row we are just double crocheting all the way across, no increases. So now we're just adding length. Now we can chain 1 and cut off the yarn. And now we're going to do the same exact thing to the other side. And we are done. If you're curious about the dollar store yarn, we did make it in 1 skein of each color. This is how much was left of the yellow, which of course needed more for the wrapper part, and this is how much is left of the pink. So 109 yards of yarn or 50 grams is enough to make a pillow of this size. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments, or I always link my crochet Instagram account in the description in case you want to just message me there to ask a question. And if you end up making one and posting on the Instagram, then please tag my crochet Instagram because I love to see everyone's finished projects and what kind of color combinations you do. Thank you for watching and for supporting my channel.